Welcome to Roadie Wellness, where we explore all things health and self-care. Whether you're seeking mental clarity, physical fitness, or insight from students like you, we've got you covered. Welcome back to the Roadie Wellness Podcast. I'm Olivia, and I'm here with Alex today.
Hello.
And we are going to be talking about long-term relationships and the key to keeping the spark going. So I hear that you're in a 3-year-long relationship currently. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, 3 and some change. I've been with my girlfriend, Emily, since my freshman year. I'm a senior now. We met in our dorm/chemistry class. We had, chemistry together. And we've been together ever since.
So, starting off strong, what do you think is the key to maintaining a strong emotional connection, especially in a long-term relationship?
Yeah, I won't lie. I phoned a friend last night, meaning my girlfriend, and we answered some of these questions together. So these are also her insights, so it's not just mine. Hopefully that's helpful. But the first thing we said just about maintaining a strong relationship, like the most important thing for us is deep, honest communication. So even like when something's really bothering us, we have to make sure it's communicated, we don't let it fester, and don't let it just sit in the back for too long, because that's when the most of our problems arise. Another thing we said is just being able to just chit-chat with each other and have a genuine interest in still learning about the person. Even 3 years in, I'm still learning about what's the newest book she wants to read, and what's my newest video game obsession, and we can still just having a genuine interest in each other's lives that I'm still excited to learn about her every day. I think that keeps the spark alive. And yeah, it's just, I think the biggest thing too is just being able to be imperfect around each other. Obviously in the beginnings of a relationship, you're going to be embarrassed and weird in front of each other because it's relationship jitters and you want to be perfect around this person, but people are imperfect, and just having someone you're okay, these are my quirks. How do you deal with them, and vice versa? So it's just being able to be imperfect around each other and be comfortable being imperfect, I think, is the most important thing to having a strong connection with someone.
I love how you said that one of the biggest factors is communication, and you literally talked this out with her last night, and so I'm yeah, that tracks. Tracks. Going off of that, actually, how do you approach difficult conversations, whether it's about a disagreement or something, without escalating tension?
So I would say my biggest thing is, I know a lot of people say, don't go to bed angry, let's hash this out now. And I think that is true in a lot of things. As a quick problem arises, you definitely have to address that when that comes up. But if it's something that you're still trying to figure out your own feelings on, sometimes we find it best to hey, let's each individually spend a night thinking about our feelings on it. Sometimes things will come up in my own life, and I sit there and I'm okay, I can tell her about this. I can take a night to kind of process how I'm feeling and then bring it up, where I'm calm about it and I have my wits about me. Even if it's just taking an hour to collect yourself before you're going into a conversation and potentially it getting heated and you're yelling at a person. Instead, you have the time to think it out and bring it to the table. So I think, I don't know, just being able to approach a conversation in a calm way, even if it's stressing you out. I think it's important to take the time to calm yourself down first before going into those things. If that makes any sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because you can't have a full and honest conversation and be comfortable with each other if your emotions are causing you to act out in ways that isn't really you, and it's just
definitely.
You're acting out of emotion instead of your usual self.
Yeah, so I think our biggest thing is genuinely we each take our time when something arises. I'm hey, I need 20 minutes to just calm down, and then we can talk about this. Especially in high tension situations, that's a good one. But most of the times it's just being able to tell her right off the bat what's happening and being comfortable with that. I just found a person that's good at listening, so I lucked out.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful too when you're having those conversations and the other person is reciprocating or reciprocative to what you're saying, and vice versa. So,
Yeah.
So continuing with the communication aspect, what role do healthy boundaries play in your relationship, and how do you communicate that with each other?
That is a good question. That's a good question. I would say in the beginning of our relationship and the first year of our relationship, it was a lot of learning about each other's boundaries, what situations might trigger certain responses to things, kind of just knowing what topics made the other uncomfortable, like things we had to avoid. So boundaries, I feel you learn about them as they come up. So it's not just like, hey, we just started dating, here's everything I can't, like you can and can't do it around me type thing. It's just, I think it was a very natural progression. But once we got past that point, we kind of learned each other's quirks. I think it's much easier to read her now. So like, I'm like, oh, she doesn't like this, so she probably won't like XYZ. But also we're at a level of comfortability with each other where it's just, nowadays, I'm like, hey, I just need like 20 minutes of lay in bed time. So it's like, we're able to like communicate that more, which just comes with, I guess, time together and comfortability. But yeah, I would say boundaries, like you don't want to push them early on in the relationship, just like let it be a learning experience and just be open to like telling them about your boundaries and like listening and learning. At the end of the day, boundaries are like the most important thing, and you don't want to just let things go for too long. Like you need to address like, hey, I do not like this. So it's just definitely important to like have someone you're comfortable saying that to. And if you're not comfortable, like you gotta figure that out quickly.
Yeah. Because that comes with the whole communication aspect.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
So in the beginning, you're saying, like, it's more of observing and listening instead of, like, fully just talking it out. But, like, talking it out when it's necessary.
Talking it out when it's necessary. Like, we've been in situations where, like, we're walking around at night and it's like, hey, I don't want to hold your hand in public right now because I'm a little nervous. For context, we're a lesbian couple. So, like, if we're walking around, like, Providence at night, I'm like, hey, don't want to hold your hand right now. And it's, like, things like that we both kind of agree on. So, like, when there could be like some sort of situation involved, it's very important to communicate those boundaries. But I find like most of the time it's just like you find things out. I'm like, oh, she doesn't like mushrooms, so I'm not gonna cook mushrooms in a chicken for her. You know, there's different levels to boundaries, I think, and it's just important to know when to talk about them, when to keep them in, and vice versa.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. So, in your opinion, what's the balance between individuality and togetherness? You said, like, you hang out with her a lot, but you also need your space. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Definitely. This was actually last night when I brought these questions to my girlfriend. This is the one we talked about the most, and we found it, like, the most interesting to reflect on, like, our 3 years together and how we felt about this. Because on paper, I think me and my girlfriend are very, very different people. Like, in our interests, she loves to work out. Her degree's in microbiology, so she loves microbiology. She loves to read. She loves watching TV. I love video games. I like music. I like more creative outlets. I don't know, we're just a little different. But at the end of the day, we find a lot of stuff that have enough overlap that we can do them together. So alone time is a big thing for us, but we're good at doing alone time together. So, like, she'll sit in my bed, just read a nice book, and, like, I'll play a video game, and we'll pause and talk about it and, like, have our little fun conversations. But it really is important to, like, know who you are outside a relationship. Our interests haven't conformed to each other. They just complement each other. So when she gets to talk about all her movie things, I'm still not the biggest movie person like she is, but I love the music in it. So it's like we get to have growing conversations, and finding that balance of, like, who are you in this relationship and who are you alone is definitely key, and I think it's very healthy. So I think that would be my answer.
I love that. That's so sweet.
Thank you.
That's nice that you guys partake in each other's hobbies, even if it's not really your thing. You just, like,
Yeah.
enjoy doing it with the other person.
Yeah, I've watched 5 seasons of Game of Thrones and didn't like a second of it, but hey, she loves... We've talked about this now, so this isn't me exposing it on the podcast, but yeah, we've joked about it, but she loves Game of Thrones, so, you know, I sat through it, and she sat through some pretty bad music things on my behalf, so, you know, give and take of a relationship.
That's crazy. That's commitment, because those episodes are, like, an hour long.
Yeah,
those seasons are really long.
It's her favorite show, so, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do.
That's so nice. But like I was saying, yeah, I love how you guys compliment each other and, yeah, partake in each other's hobbies. There's a lot of, like, respect in that. And you have a lot of fun doing that. And I think it's interesting because both of those are a part of the 10 signs of a healthy relationship, all 10 being, like, a comfortable pace, so a relationship that moves at a speed and feels enjoyable for each person, honesty, respect, so that's just valuing one another's beliefs and opinions and loving each other for who they are, kindness, healthy conflict, trust, independence, equality, taking responsibility, and fun. So, yeah, there's a lot of hallmarks of the 10 healthy relationship signs that I just keep hearing. And so, yeah, it makes sense why you guys have been together for so long.
Yes.
So going off of that, what of the 10 signs do you feel like is most important and most prevalent in your relationship?
Looking over them quickly, I would say, like you had just said, fun is an important one because it's always good to not take yourself too seriously in a relationship. You're not an actress, model, superstar. Like, you're a person. So it's, like, good to just be down to earth and just be a person with another person. You know what I mean? Have fun. And respect is definitely a big one. Like, you have to respect who you're with because if you don't, that's, not great. But I would say the biggest part of those healthy relationships for us, I'd say honestly, personally, how I view the relationship is trust. I trust her to, and vice versa, to respect my opinions and, like, my interests and, my lifestyle. And I trust her to, like, respect myself. I don't know. I think a lot of what we have is built off of trust, like, trust that we'll be there for each other, trust that we'll never judge each other, and trust that we have each other's best interests in mind along with our own. So I'd say how I view the relationship is I feel very much like I trust her more than anybody, and I would like to say I think she feels the same. A lot can be built off of trust, and I think it is like it's a building block for the rest of those signs.
Trusting that the other person won't hurt you or harm you. It's a good building block because how are you going to have fun and respect and feel comfortable with each other if you don't even trust the other person?
Exactly.
So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Because there's a level to it that's like, okay, I trust that you're not going to go cheat on me and, like, break up with me and all that stuff. But also I trust that, like, if I tell you, hey, like, this is my interest right now and, like, I love this video game, you're not going to be like, loser. Like, you know what I mean? But, yeah.
Like, she's going to reciprocate your excitement and your enjoyment, and you're going to do the same for her, even if it's Game of Thrones,
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. So speaking of trust, I hear that your relationship might be changing a little bit. Do you want to talk about that change that you guys might be going through?
Yes. So, as you may know, it's April. Graduation's right around the corner. My girlfriend's going off to get her PhD in microbiology because she's a smarty pants. And I am moving back home with my parents, which is not a bad thing because, we all have to start somewhere in life. But I'm moving back home for like a year or two just to get myself financially situated. And she's attending more school, so we are going to be going long distance soon. So, yeah, that brings up a lot of conversation, as it does. Thankfully, since the start of our relationship, we've always been partially long distance. She's originally from New Jersey. I'm from Rhode Island. We met, obviously, in school in Rhode Island. So we have some experience being long distance. Like, I had an internship this past summer in Maryland, so we know what it's like to be apart. And I will say long distance is definitely tricky at the start. And I feel a little more prepared going into it this time around, though.
You're going to be a little bit more ready for it this time. What are some things that you've learned from your previous experiences being long distance that you're going to take into this next chapter of your life?
Yeah, so definitely this time is going to be a little trickier just because it's going to be full-time long distance. We've already talked about some habits we're going to keep up while being in a relationship. Every night we try and FaceTime or call. We might not text all day long, but like we always have our nightly recaps, and if we can't, we'll do it the next day. But the biggest thing about long distance that we've learned over these like handful of years doing it is just like communication is so important. And I think that's why we're so good at it in our day-to-day is because it has to be good when you're long distance because you're missing out of a key component in your relationship of seeing them and reading their body language. Like you're doing it over phone, you're doing it over text. So if you're upset, you can be projecting your upsetness onto them, and that can get tricky really fast, and emotions and tensions can rise. So the second I'm like, hey, I miss you, I need to tell her, hey, I'm having a tricky day, I miss you a little extra today. Maybe I need to hear, I love you a little extra, or like, hey, I miss you too. So being able to tell your partner what you need from a distance is really important because if you can't do that, you're going to just bottle up your emotions and project, and it gets bad really fast. I went down a little rabbit hole of the first time we did long distances. I didn't want to be too needy, so I kept a lot of my feelings in, but we were both having a hard time, but we weren't telling each other. So the next time around, we were definitely ready for that. So I would say if anybody's going to start going long distance, like communication is so, so key. And like I said earlier, like building habits together, we're going to keep up our nightly FaceTime calls because that's what we still do. Like if we're not together, we're calling each other. But we want to do weekly, like, hey, let's make our little dinners and sit on FaceTime together. And I'm going to try and visit her maybe like once a month. Like we're going to go back and forth. So it's good to go in with a plan saying like, hey, this is when I want to visit you, but also keeping realistic. Like she's going to be getting her PhD. I'm going to be starting a new job. There are going to be days where like, I'm a little busier than most and like we have to cancel on each other. And it doesn't mean that we don't love each other. It's just we're at busy new points in our lives and we're away from each other. So just being able to communicate that, being able to communicate emotions and schedules, very key to long distance. So I hope that wasn't too long-winded, but that's how we deal with it.
That's some really great insights, especially about the communication aspect. I've talked to a few long-distance couples that have said the same thing about, like, not wanting to be too needy and, like, always texting their partner or always calling them or whatever. But, yeah, most likely your partner's probably feeling the same way. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And it must have been difficult for you guys because, like you mentioned in the start, a lot of your relationship was observing the other person and playing off of body language and, like, seeing how the other person's reacting and feeling, and then not being able to see that at all and going fully just through technology, basically. Yeah, you're going to have to just voice your opinion all the time.
Definitely. And I feel like people don't realize that's the reason, like, they're having communication issues long distance. Like, it took me a while to get it, that I was, like, reading her text and putting emotion that wasn't there on it, because, like, you're missing that face-to-face communication, so it's very easily to project and, like, assume things, but, like, just making sure your intentions are there is good.
Yeah, and that must be super hard to realize because, like, you could be texting or calling all the time, and you're like, well, we are communicating, so why are we still having communication issues? And it's, like, quality over quantity, like, being honest and upfront and open.
Yeah, and there are some nights, too, like, if I'm just tired and we don't do our nightly FaceTime call, I'm like, hey, I'm, like, cranky and tired, and if we hop on this phone call, I'm going to be cranky and tired on it, so, like, let's just wait till tomorrow. And being able to say that is very important in a relationship because, like, you gotta know when, like, if you're gonna just, I don't want to say harm them, but, like, you know, just put your bad mood on them. You gotta know when to take yourself back and just be like, hey, it's okay to not spend time together if that time is not gonna be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just knowing when you need your space and your time. Individuality.
And boundaries. Okay.
Come back. Yup. Circle back.
So to end it off on a fun note, what's something spontaneous that you've done together that created a lasting memory?
So once again, I asked my girlfriend this last night, and she laughed because my girlfriend is so type A, has things planned by the book. Like, our parents are meeting at graduation for the first time May 17th. We talked about this end of March. She's already had the reservation booked. Like, at Tees. Everyone knows Tees. You don't need a reservation there, but that's who she is. So we're not very spontaneous people. That being said, one of our most spontaneous things we did recently was, like, we went out to dinner, and she loves movies. I love popcorn. And we were right next to the Showcase Cinema in Warwick. We went to Texas Roadhouse, shout out. And afterwards I was like, I want movie theater popcorn. And we just, like, sat in the car and, like, ate our popcorn and just talked for hours and hours and hours. And it might seem silly because you're like, oh, spontaneous, you're hopping on a plane to go to the beach, or, like, you're running in the, like, spontaneity can be something just so little of, like, we got popcorn from the movie theaters, like, we just walked in, got our popcorn, left, we didn't sit for a movie, we just sat in the car and, like, spent time together. And recently, like, that's been my favorite memory of us. Because we're not spontaneous people, that's my answer. It's just getting popcorn and hanging out with her and just talking about life, because that's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, it was spontaneous for you.
Yes.
That brings up a good point where it's like, a lot of this information was really great, but it's not going to work for everyone. And that's why, all of, like, the information and advice, you can figure out how to apply it if it's applicable to your relationship, but it might not always be, and you got to figure it out what works for you.
Yeah.
So, just a good reminder that everyone's different and not everything works for everyone. So take everything with a grain of salt.
Definitely. Like, I spent a lot of time in our early relationship just comparing myself to, like, friends and my parents and other relationships in my life because I was nervous. But I had to quickly learn, me and her are just quirky little people, and we do things in our own way, and that works for us, and that works for us. And that's all you can hope for in life, you know what I mean? So some people might listen to this and be like, oh my God, this sounds like my worst nightmare relationship. But it makes me the happiest, so.
And that's what matters.
And that's what matters.
Yeah.
As long as you're happy and healthy.
Exactly. And I feel like the only thing that really might be universal is the 10 signs of a healthy relationship, because the way you communicate might be different for everyone. But like healthy communication and healthy conflict is like a big part of a healthy relationship. And like trust is a healthy part of a relationship. But like the way that you guys go about it might be differently. Well, thank you so much for opening up and sharing about your amazing relationship.
Thank you.
And thank you for, hopping on this podcast today.
Thank you for having me. And since I know my girlfriend's going to be listening to this, shout out. Hi, Emily.
Before we wrap up, a quick reminder that all information shared in today's podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Thank you for listening to another episode of Roadie Wellness. If you like what you heard today, tune in every Tuesday on all podcast platforms for more. If you want to stay up to date on events and healthcare tips, please follow us at URI Health Promotions on Instagram. And if you have any ideas for future podcast episodes or more social media content that you'd like to see, please feel free to DM us or email us. Until next time, take care and stay healthy.